Hi, I'm Haida Emmerich. I'm with the With Gift. I'm a speech pathologist for over 30 years and a family relationship coach. Today, let's talk about resilience. Resilience is part of the stress formula that I spoke about in my past two videos. Level of stress equals perceived pressure over resilience. And so often we forget that resilience and building our resilience is important to help us manage our stress levels. So that's what we're going to focus in on today. When I speak about resilience, I'm referring to our ability and our personal qualities that allow us to bounce back or recover from difficult situations in our lives. There are many ways to strengthen our resilience and to help our children and students strengthen theirs. We're going to talk about those now. So to increase resilience and well-being, we do this by strengthening our connections. And there's three connections that we want to strengthen. We want to strengthen the connection to ourselves and within ourselves. We want to strengthen the connection with those around us and with nature. So I'm going to go through each of those and provide you with a few ways that you could strengthen and build your resilience. So the very first one, to build your own resilience, you need to make sure that you're getting a good deep sleep, that you have good nourishment, drink lots of fluids, and exercise. These things are absolutely necessary to help our immune system stay strong, to keep our mindset stronger, and to keep us healthy. So, our physical needs of sleep, nourishment, and exercise. Number one. The next thing to help build our relationship, our connection with ourself, is to include playfulness in our day. Times for joyful, creative, even imaginative work or focus times, time to have novel experiences, to step outside of our comfort zone and find joy in doing things that are more playful rather than the serious. We forget about doing that so often because life just takes us on a journey, a nonstop journey of things that we have to do. Well, I know now I'm loading on another thing that you have to do, but this is around being playful. So remember that part. Playfulness is important, even when we're grown up. The next thing I want to talk about is building your hope. Hope is built with 3 steps. We need to set realistic goals. And in setting those realistic goals, we still have to understand that we are limitless by the wonders of the neuroplasticity of our brain and even through our ability of our cells to regenerate and anew. So our bodies are wonderful things, and so there is so much that we can be hopeful for. Another step in hope after realistic goals is knowing that when you set those realistic goals, there are many pathways to achieve those goals. There's not just one way, and that we remember that we need to be flexible. If one way isn't working, there's another way to try. And know the third part of that hope, building hope, is to know that you have personal agency in this. You have the ability to choose your goals, to choose the pathways that you take in trying to achieve those goals. You have ultimate choice. And in that comes the fourth thing. We have to accept personal responsibility for our lives and for the way things are in our lives. We are not the victim. We have come to each part of our life through choices that we have made. And so we can accept personal responsibility and know in accepting that that it also opens us up to know that we can make a different choice, which is totally awesome, right? That's kind of a really important thing to remember. And in that personal responsibility comes the next suggestion. Check your thoughts. Are your thoughts primarily negative, or are they primarily positive? And which way do you want them to be? You have a choice in that too. And in that checking your thoughts, think about the judgments that you are making, the judgments that you are making on others. If you're making judgments on others, you are most definitely also judging yourself. And judging yourself, we can be pretty harsh on ourselves. If we are aware that we are making judgments, we can also be aware of trying to decrease them. And in that way, we increase acceptance of ourselves, our own strengths and our own challenges, and accept that in others. And even rather than pronounce judgment, think more along the lines of forgiveness. Those are important steps to increasing your connection with yourself, because it's good practice to decrease judgment on yourself and increase forgiveness and self-compassion towards yourself. Another thing that is really important in all of that is to really pay attention to your emotions. Use your emotions as your guide. If you are feeling uneasy or distressed or depressed or sadness, all those emotions that we consider more on the negative half of the scale, then know that you have a choice to make. You can make a choice to reach for a better feeling thought. Perhaps rather than feeling absolutely enraged, you're feeling a little bit annoyed. So check your emotions, use them as your guide. If there is something that makes you feel uneasy, maybe you need to choose a different pathway, a different way to react, a different way to go, so that you have a more positive experience. So emotions as our guide. I find this part really, really tricky, but I'm aware of them and I'm working towards using them more as my guide. And in doing so, I'm also trying to be cognizant of the variety of words that I can use to better describe my emotions. So that's another piece of connecting more deeply with yourself. Just really think about your emotional concepts that you are using, and are they just very general, or can you dig a little deeper and use a more specific word to describe how you're feeling and to figure that out? That will help build your resilience. Lastly, under the me section, the connection with yourself, is tuning inward. People take time to tune inward certainly help build their resilience and decrease their levels of stress. There's a lot of research behind that. And you can tune inward through mindfulness practices or present moment awareness practices. I use meditation, where every morning, I wake up in the morning, and the first thing that I do is I try to connect with my inner self by just focusing inward on my breathing and on my heartbeat, and realizing that both of those just happen. Sure, I can take control of my breathing, but on the other hand, when I'm not thinking about it, it just keeps going. And isn't that wonderful? That's pretty amazing how my body can do that. So I focus in on my breathing, and I focus in then too around the sensations that surround me, that come into me, that I am hearing, maybe smelling, tasting, feeling, maybe even with my vision that I'm seeing. And I just focus in and become really aware in this moment to my senses. And then I start becoming aware of that thoughts are coming into my head. And we can't stop our thoughts, really. They just happen. We're human. Our brain just always is thinking. But I can become aware of those thoughts and the coming and the going of them, and I don't need to get involved and pulled into them. And so I just keep refocusing on my breath, for example. Notice the thought and then refocus, especially if I'm starting to dive deep into it. I pull myself back. And then I set some morning intentions, such as for a healthy, strong body, or a caring and compassionate heart. So tuning inward is a great way to build your resilience. Taking a moment to do that before you step out into the world helps you be strong in yourself. So now let's turn to our connection with others and strengthening our connection with others. One of those things is to focus in on what are your positive connections, the people that you find you have the most fun and joyful, non-judgmental, full acceptance kinds of connections with, and try and do more of those. Connect with those people, the ones that build you up rather than tear you down, the ones that cause you to be better, that you don't dive into judgment and being critical and gossiping about others. Strengthen those positive connections and find ways that you can be playful with those people, have joyful moments, creative moments, maybe enjoy novel experiences. Stepping out of your comfort zone is much easier with someone else, so that might be opportunity to do that. And going back to that judgment, trying to be non-judgmental with those people around you. All people, everything. Check your judgment. If you can be non-judgmental and more accepting and forgiving, you are building your connection and you're building your resilience. The last thing that I want to suggest about building your connection with others is thinking about contribution. How can you contribute to the greater good? What can you give? And because in giving, you are also receiving, and you are strengthening your connection with others. Lastly, the third connection we need to strengthen to build our resilience is our connection with nature. Nature, some people might call this nature bathing. I've heard the word grounding used. It's so important to get out into nature and to experience its fullness, its awe and its wonder, the wow of nature. And in experiencing it through your sense of wonder, you build a curiosity, wanting to understand it better. Those things are so important in our connection with nature. And we do that through present moment awareness, through tuning outward in this present moment without thought of the past or of the future, but rather right now, and finding the joy and the awe in what you see, in the animals, in the gardening, in getting your hands dirty while you are gathering the leaves, walking barefoot in the grass, going on hikes and bike rides and walks along the river, or dipping your toes in the lake at the beach, walking barefoot in the sand, going to parks, going to farms, and just being part of nature, the environment, something bigger than you. Building that connection is another way to build your resilience. We are all connected, and our connections with each other and with nature and with ourselves are the ways to build resilience. So these are just a few things. In closing, I want to say, you've probably heard a lot about building a daily gratefulness practice. Some people say appreciation practice, but making sure that you include that in your day. It's quite easy. You can start your day with thinking about a few things, listing them on a piece of paper or in a journal, a few things, even just one thing that you are grateful for as you wake up this morning. And at the end of the day, it's a beautiful way to close your day and consider what were those grateful things that happened in this day. Maybe it's as simple as you really enjoyed a spoonful of peanut butter. It might be more complex, like you loved what happened between you and your spouse that day, or your child, something that they said, or something, maybe just a special look that you received or a smile that you received. Appreciating the simple things in life is where that gratefulness starts. So I hope you found these ideas helpful. Please don't forget to download an explanation of the magic formula, stress equals perceived pressure over resilience, which includes tips to decrease pressure and tips to increase resilience. Until the next time, I hope you are well and that your resilience keeps going up.